every level, you're destroying your body.
You're just destroying your body. You're just destroying it because cancer eats sugar.
Cancer eats sugar.
It wants to eat sugar. So the person leaves there and goes to McDonald's and gets a, a chocolate smoothie and is wondering why I'm getting sick, right?
Right.
I'm a college dropout. My parents were entrepreneurs and they were small business owners. I grew up middle class, and I got pulled into the healthcare space because my parents unfortunately died of cancer when I was in my early 20s. So I felt that I could make a difference in that industry, and so I gravitated towards that. And I had a successful career in radiology in my early 20s, and then I sold that company, made no money, literally no money. I think I sold it for $9 million. I was 29 years old, and I walked away with like 150 grand. Okay, so after taxes, I was still broke. I wasn't financially independent at all. Yeah. And then I worked for the PE firm that bought me out for about 5 years, and then I ventured out again, and I started because I was kind of looking for what I was going to do. Yeah. And it was also a big ego blow, right? Because I was like, I thought in my early 20s, hey, I'm starting this company and I'm going to exit. I'm going to make all this money and I'm going to be financially independent. And I found out that I had made a lot of horrible decisions. Mm-hmm. So it was a great learning lesson. And then from there, I got an email from a buddy of mine about home sleep testing. And, being a healthcare guy, I was familiar about sleep testing that was migrating to the home instead of the hospitals or the sleep labs. And so I kind of put two together, man, and I saw an opportunity. I was 7 years ahead of everyone else, which I got my timing right, which was, as you know, as an entrepreneur, timing is key, right? Amen. And I called the manufacturer that had a home sleep testing device, and I met him at Panera Bread. Okay. And the guy's name was Mark. I won't say the company name, but Mark was the sales guy. And I met with Mark at Panera Bread, and I said, hey, Mark, I'm going to build the largest medical sleep testing company in the country. He kind of laughed at me. Okay. He's like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like I kind of came in heavy.
Correct. Like, beat him over the head. He didn't know what to say. Panera.
Yeah,
he's in over
Panera. I'm like, okay. So he was like, all right, cool. So he's like, well, hey, how many of these units do you want? I said, give me 2 or 3. And I bought them. And I went to an insurance company locally, and they gave me a 3-county deal and said, hey, we'll let you provide these services to our members in 3 counties. It was Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco. Okay. And I went out and I started peddling sleep tests, man. And I was calling on doctors and didn't have any money. I was going through a divorce at the time. And so I think my kids were maybe 8, 9 years old. I had nothing. There was nothing to lean back on. There was no family to lean back on. And so every day I would go out and I would talk to doctors and I would say, hey, I have this home test that would save your patients money, and it's a better service, better quality, better cost, better access. And then I did that, for 6 or 7 months, and I was able to rent an office for $500 a month, and I hired 1 employee, and I raised some money through private investors. Not a lot, a couple $100 grand. Mm-hmm. And then it was friends and family. It was friends. There was no family. So it was friends, credit cards, and maxed out my credit cards. And then, I did that dance for several years.
How old were you then?
I was 33, 34 years old. And I was broke every week. I think, when in 2015, I was making, $800 a week. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing was, I was never really chasing money, right? I was always chasing my potential and my opportunity. I figured, look, if I create enough value in my life for people, my company, and my friends, money will come, right? Amen. So I said, hey, that's where I'm going to focus. And so I was broke, but I was happy. Yep. It was Chipotle every day for lunch. And I grinded, and, fast forward, and we can get into the story later, but, fast forward, several years, I built the largest medical provider in the United States by a wide margin. We're the number 1 player in the U.S., and we're in 45 states, and we have over 550 employees. And we have a lot of our own technology. We have our own iPhone app now, and we use a lot of great technology to allow patients to get tested in the home. And part of me being on social media too was, there's not a lot of healthcare guys on social media, right? There's probably single digits.
Not a lot of real people doing something real in the healthcare industry on social media.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. So then I got into conferences, and I, created one of the biggest conferences in the country and did all that. Had Magic Johnson there, David Goggins, Alex Rodriguez, and all these guys. And so I'm trying to put more more awareness on healthcare. I think there needs to be a lot more entrepreneurship and innovation in healthcare because it's a broken system. I focus highly on healthcare. I'm a passionate guy about healthcare. I love it. I love the industry. I love biotech. And so, for me, it's a lot of fun, and that's what I like to do.
Love it. Yeah. What did the email say? Your friend sent you an email about what? Sleep apnea. You got an email that intrigued you to look at what
said, hey, there was a medical device that could diagnose sleep apnea in your home. And I said, okay, cool. Sounds good.
He sent you because he thought you might want to sell it. You might want to do something in the industry. He was just bored.
He was like, hey, you should look at this.
Got it. Okay. And walk us through, you had talked earlier because people don't understand this. You sold the company for around $9 million and walked away with $150,000.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that, because I don't think people understand sometimes. And I've talked to people like that. I'm like, well, how much did you get? Like, you sold it for X. Explain to us how you sold it for $9, walked away with $150,000.
Well, I over leveraged, had a lot of debt. I was signing PGs like it was going out of style, right? Like, oh, this is a PG. Oh,
no doubt, personal guarantee. Let's go.
No problem. Here's a PG for this, PG for that, blah blah blah. It was PGs.
Yeah.
Don't sign PGs. And unless you really mitigate it, but so it was a lot of PG, it was a lot of debt, but it was look, I was in my 20s. I didn't know as much as I thought I did. I was in an industry where I was basically, the sophistication level that I had didn't match my prowess, right? So I was
say that again if you don't mind. That was deep.
The sophistication I had didn't match my prowess.
Okay,
it really didn't. And so here I had all this eagerness and this drive and this ambition, but I was a little naive.
Yeah.
Okay. I was very naive, and I probably wouldn't have admitted that then. Looking back now, I'm like, wow, I was very naive. Naive in the sense that I think, I was like, wow, I could trust everyone. No one's out there trying to screw me. Everything's great. Sing kumbaya. And I over leveraged the business, and I got to a point where I had the wrong partners, wrong investors, the intentions weren't aligned, and as a result of that, it created a lot of commotion, and it was not harmonious. So when I exited, I was able to kind of the guy that bought me out, I'm still friends with today, and I basically got a clean slate, right? I was able to walk away.
That's right. Nobody, nothing.
After I paid everybody, legal fees, all the partners, all the investors, I got a check for $150,000 at closing, and then I got another $100,000 12 months later, as a kind of a buyout payment later on,
kind of deal.
But there's still $100,000 after taxes is $70,000, so it was I don't even count that. But I ended up getting $150,000, and I was in a very difficult situation. I had my family suing me. I had two brothers that ended up suing me.
Because of the business?
Yeah, because my father had passed away. My father had some ownership in the business, even though it was passive.
And your brother
and they
sued
convinced
you.
him to give him the shares, and then I got sued. I mean, dude, you name it, right? And now, look, think about yourself now. Think if you're 28 years old dealing with that.
Oh, dude, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that I got through it.
100%.
Because if I look at a 28-year-old today and he told me that he was dealing with all that, I'd be like, wow.
Because it's a lot.
It's a lot.
On your plate at any age.
At any age.
Family, finances, the world coming down upon you.
I'll tell you what, I had so much suppression that I went to the doctor because I had a fever that they call it a consistent fever of 101 that lasted about 17 days.
You had 101 fever for 17 consecutive days?
Yeah. So the doctor thought I had HIV.
Oh,
okay. No, I'm telling you.
Did you believe him?
Wow. I mean, fuck. I was like, bro.
Damn.
What the fuck?
Wow, that's a terrible deal.
So obviously I got tested and I didn't have HIV, right?
How long was that time frame where you had to figure out when he said that and fucking get a confirmation you didn't have it?
It was a couple of days.
That was a long couple of days.
It was a long couple of days.
Damn.
Because I was like, hold on. How did I go from this to now this doctor saying, I had because it didn't make sense.
No, none of it.
Because he was like, how do you have a consistent staying fever of 101 for 17 days? Doesn't make any sense, right? That's how much pressure I was under because I'm getting sued by everybody.
All your emotions cause that.
Yeah. Yeah, the stress, the emotion, the counterintention in my space, the environment. So I had a staying fever. I found out, okay, great, I'm perfectly healthy. No, it was great. And if it wasn't that, he was like, okay, maybe you have cancer and it's giving you a fever. Like, because, who has a fever for 17 days?
Nobody I've ever met outside of you.
So I had the fever and I got through it, and it was a great learning lesson, but I don't wish that upon anybody. So.
Do you, like, if you don't mind, Matt, where are you at with your brothers now? Y'all close?
My
close?
oldest one, I don't really talk to. He doesn't really talk to me. The other one, we talk. It's infrequent. We talk, but it could be a lot better relationship. But the thing is that in my life, I've gotten to a point where I'm not the type of guy that hugs somebody that I don't like.
Correct.
And I've gotten to a place in my life where I want to have relationships that are meaningful and truthful, and I don't want to have relationships where there's always a 800-pound gorilla sitting in a room. So I'd rather talk about it, but not everybody does, right? So I just don't like to have relationships where I'm just like, there's something there that you don't talk about. I don't want to do that. So for me, it's not a meaningful relationship to be that way. So that's been tough, and it's been a strained relationship, but look, I mean, at that time, I remember going back to that time, and I was like, hey, they ended up with way more money than me because they were able to, basically muscle their way into a business that they had nothing to do with.
Grab some money even though they didn't build it. They didn't have any debt. They didn't owe anything.
They ended up getting, I think one of them bought a Ferrari and the other one bought an Aston Martin. I was like, I couldn't buy anything, right? But I tell you what, man, that drove me. I said, you know what? I'm going to come back, and we'll come back bigger and fucking better. And
good for you.
And now I got a Gulfstream.
Good for those are beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting next.
So,
the citation, I'm selling that and getting Gulfstream.
Great plane. Yeah,
100%.
So
Quick, in and out.
Yeah.
A lot of lessons in there, right? But I think, how was it you worked for the PE company that acquired your company for, you said 5 years?
Yeah.
In what capacity? Did you still run the company, or did you have a different?
No, I was out ownership-wise, but I was their VP, Florida VP, or executive VP.
How was that for you?
I mean, look, dude, it was a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. Just because I was reporting to people that were just not smarter than me.
Correct.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I had a loyalty to the owner who had saved me, but he was out. He was out of the business. He was an investor. And so him and I are great friends today. I was actually going to go to New York, and then the storm hit, and I couldn't go. But, I think reporting to people that you're smarter than, and you have a better understanding of the business than they do. Not that it makes them wrong. It's just, it is what it is. So that was tough. So that was a very tough, 5 years. Because I think what's tough sometimes, and I don't know what your thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, is I have a very difficult time not being myself in my own skin. And I think that's a priceless commodity to have these days. Like, I don't change for people.
Correct.
I am who I am with you as I am with anyone else. So you won't ever find me out one day and it's like, oh, Vick's so different.
Correct.
I revel in that commodity that I have, right? And so during those 5 years, Shawn, it was really difficult for me to have to kind of be somebody else.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to be me.
Correct.
And that's
it's a painful way to exist.
Yeah.
Because in my thoughts, honestly, I can't do it. And I think for me, people always say to me, this person says this about you, this person says, I tend to not have, and you have an opinion of me one way or another, but I am who I am my entire life. Like I've not changed when I was broke as shit. I've been through so much that I don't judge people. That's the other thing I think is adorable nowadays. Everybody judges everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, first of all, whatever faith you have or don't have, it ain't your job.
No.
Who are you? No. It's not your job to judge. So for me, when I look at somebody and something happens, I'm like, dude, that could have been me. That could have been you. Like, we're one bad decision or some bad luck away from that happening, right?
Yeah.
When I sold, it's funny, I sold my real estate, my whole portfolio, and they wanted me to work for them. And I was young.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy came with me. He said, because they believed I was lying to them about how low my delinquent rents were and how high my occupancy was. I said, well, you all pick, I don't give a 15, 20, 40 properties randomly. Call me in the morning. I'll go with you. And I'll never forget, he said, well, can you show me how you do your intake? And I said, well, it's not called an intake. I meet a prospective tenant. I have a property management company. But if you want me to show you how we do it, I will. Yeah. So I'm sitting down with the guy, and the lady's talking to me. And I was like, well, what's your son been arrested for? And she's stumbling around. I said, we're going to run his record anyway. And listen, dude, he's being really crazy and weird. And I know he's been arrested. So he basically starts telling me how he's been arrested for this sex offense. So I was like, well, obviously, I'm not going to rent to you. And she's like, what do you mean, obviously? I was like, what the do you mean what do you mean? Are you being sarcastic? I said, come here for a minute.
Yeah.
So I asked again. I said, what happened? So he tells me. And he's literally looking at me, telling me all this shit. I said, well, dude, I'm never going to rent you. Nobody's going to rent you. And stop calling me. Yeah. So we leave, and the guy's like, you just can't do that. I was like, I just did it. Yes, I can. Yeah. That's exactly what like he assaulted a little kid. Like I can definitely do it. It's not a problem. And they wanted to sell me that company back. Yeah. But they want me to work for them. Yeah. And I'm like, there's no way I can do it. Yeah. But you know what's funny is what I learned about me is there's certain places I shouldn't be in. There's certain industries I shouldn't be in. There's certain industries that just don't make sense to me. And I always tell people, having a job, dude, I had a job for the majority of my life. Did I love it? No, because I felt pretty much always that people were inferior in their ability to perform at that job that I was. Yeah. So I didn't like it. Yeah. But I still did it. Yeah. And that's the thing, people are like, well, I quit my job. Like, you're 23 with no money. You need a job. Yeah. Like, you need to make some kind of income somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. That's a fascinating freaking story, and I appreciate your transparency, which is probably one of the reasons people like you so much, because you're so easy to talk to.
Well, some people do, some people don't. I mean,
well,
like,
they don't, they don't.
Yeah, I think the best commodity you can have, and I can see that you have this commodity too, is like, you know, the worst disease you can have is worrying about what people think of you.
Yeah, I don't give a
no,
never have,
but
never
but
will.
Everybody that does, just unfortunately, they're a slave to the system.
Yeah.
Right?
Not me,
you
bro.
just
I
can't
feel real
operate
free.
That way. Yeah,
like you talk about relationships that are healthy. I want to talk about sleep apnea.
Yeah,
because I'm going to tell you, I knew nothing about it. And it was probably 3 years ago, a friend of mine, he said to me, and he's a big boy, and I wouldn't say, I mean, he's 5'10", 250. He could be thinner, a big boy, yeah, but not, you know, like unbelievably obese. Yeah. And he said, man, my wife keeps getting on me to get the sleep apnea test. And I said, I don't even, like, aside from knowing what it is, I don't, what, you know, yeah. He said, well, she's afraid I'm going to die. Yeah. And I'm like, of sleep apnea? Yeah. Like, so we start talking about, and then probably about a month later, first it started that he was snoring. And then she was upset about that. Then she was like, dude, you freak me out in your sleep because I think you're dying. Yeah. Like, literally. Yeah. And I have very minimal information, obviously. It's not my deal. But he said he did a study. Don't know where. Yeah, probably got him. Probably was.
He probably got it done at Blackstone.
Probably was. I should ask him. Yeah. Got whatever his deal was afterwards. Yeah. And he's like, I'm so much healthier in every way since then. Yeah. First of all, how detrimental is sleep apnea if it's not treated? How detrimental can it be if it's not treated?
Well, it's very detrimental. Let me give you the little bit of the science behind it. So first of all, sleep apnea, the word apnea means in Greek without breath. Okay. So that's what apnea means. So
you're literally losing your breath.
You're going for a period of 10 seconds or more without a breath, okay, when you're sleeping. And so what happens is your body, so let's just take a sleep apnea event, okay, one event. So when you have a sleep apnea event, you can't breathe. So your body, your brain sends a signal to say, wake up. Okay. So it releases a huge amount of adrenaline in your bloodstream. And the amount of adrenaline is similarly or equal to the amount of adrenaline you'd have in a car accident.
Wow.
So it's a big jolt.
To shock your body to get you to wake up.
Shock your body, say, hey, wake up, right? So now you're like, yeah, wake up. But sometimes you don't wake up, you know you wake up, it's below the level of consciousness, right? So you have this apnea event, now your body's like, okay, now I'm breathing again. The body's an amazing thing, right? So the body's like, hey, I got to protect you. Boom, so now you're awake, you're awake. But then what happens is you have all this adrenaline in your system, right? So now your body has to counteract that, right? So your body's now releasing insulin and other things in your bloodstream to counteract the adrenaline that was now jolted into your bloodstream. So now you have this situation where you've got adrenaline, insulin, all this stuff going on, right? And you wake up in the morning and you feel like you got hit by a truck. Okay. Well, that's why you feel like you got hit by a truck, because you had this huge event. Now, there's some people that have like 60 of those a night.
Every night or on a case?
Per night.
Do they wake up?
Events.
They don't wake up. Their body gets to that and their body... Okay.
So the people that have, 60, 70, 100... apnea events per night, right? Which is severe, but let's say you had 20. Well, 20 is a lot. Yeah, sure. You're doing that every day, right? So it's the impact on your health is huge. So now you're a healthy individual. You may be not morbidly or clinically obese, right? Clinically obese in the United States is defined as a BMI, body mass index, of 30 or more. Okay. The CDC has projected that by 2026, 50% of the U.S. population will be clinically obese.
That's scary.
Clinically obese. So that means you got a
half
BMI
the people
of
in
30
the United States
more.
of America.
Half. So if your BMI is 30 or greater, it's an instant sleep study, because you might be in a situation where you're not able to breathe at night because you have too much body mass, right? So what happens is you're a healthy individual. Let's say that you're a football player, but you're a healthy guy. but you're not sleeping at night. So now you're in a situation where you find out, you go to the doctor one day and you find out you're type 2 diabetic because of all the adrenaline,
That
insulin
causes
issues.
the type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely. So now you're in this situation where you're like, hey, but hold on, I'm a healthy guy.
Yeah.
Okay, well now you're potential or you're pre-diabetic because you have all this chemical endorphins and all this other stuff going on in your body. That's the free radicals and all the things that go on in your body during this time. So you're in this very unique situation, right? So getting tested is the best thing that you can do because you get tested, you get on therapy, maybe it's a CPAP machine or maybe it's an oral appliance and you get on the right therapy. I mean, think about it, because if you're not getting REM sleep, right? You're not getting REM sleep at night. You guys know REM, rapid eye movement sleep, right? Which, out of 7 or 8 hours of sleep, maybe you get REM for 2 hours. Look, if you're waking up, you're not going to go into deep sleep. And REM sleep is where your body rejuvenates. Mm-hmm. So if you're not sleeping well and you're not getting the REM sleep.
So on every level, you're destroying your body.
You're just destroying your body. You're just destroying it. It's got nothing to do with, I didn't sleep well. It's like, no, dude, you're destroying your body.
And you actually can't sleep well because of your condition.
Yeah. You're tired during the day. So then you slept 7-8 hours, and that's a good indicator, right? So let's say that, you slept 7-8 hours, but you're just like, man, I just don't feel slept. I don't feel rejuvenated. I don't feel like I slept well. I'm still tired. I want to take a nap. You may have sleep apnea. And at that point, you should talk to your doctor and say, hey, let me get tested. And so, look, when I got started, sleep apnea wasn't the big thing. Okay. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't coffee table talk. Now it's coffee table talk, right?
No
it's
doubt.
like, oh, sleep apnea. Oh, I'm on the therapy and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And, we in May, we tested 1 million patients.
In May,
we finally passed 1 million.
Wow.
So it's great to see. And I don't mean great to see from a business perspective, but it's great to see from a health concern perspective that people are now actually taking it way more seriously than they used to. Yeah. And now they're just getting tested. And, now look, we have a ring device. We ship it to your house. You put the ring on.
That's your sleep test?
You put the ring on.
So you don't go in some hospital laying in bed all night long?
You put the ring on.
That's actually what I thought it was.
You download our app. You put the ring on. You click it. It connects.
That's what y'all created.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah.
Damn, and that gives you everything any sleep study would give you.
We can diagnose everything based off of that. It uses polysmeth tomography. Okay, polysmeth tomography. It took me a while to be able to say that. But basically, what it is so similar to an Apple Watch. If whoever's got an Apple Watch, it uses a red light indicator light right underneath it. Yeah. Well, that collects data, and it collects a lot of data. Let's say, for example, it collects data of your blood cells and how your blood cells are moving at different parts, second to second, based on the data derived from your blood cells, how far apart they are, the movement of these blood cells. We can then determine if you're moving around while you're sleeping. We can determine what your respiratory effort is, how well or hard you're breathing based on all of these small indicators. Now, there's a lot of back-end technology that we extract from that, but that's part of the technology that we use to be able to diagnose you, right? And we have board-certified sleep physicians that look at all this data and can come up with the results. But it's fascinating that we can do that from a ring.
But also, almost now your client base is everybody. I mean,
Client
pretty
base
much
everybody.
Because, I don't know that I ever have any sleep apnea. Why would I not want to know legitimately what's going on with my heart when I'm in REM?
Yeah.
How long I'm in REM?
Yeah.
What am I doing for my body? Should I get more? Should I get less?
Right.
Why would I not want to know that?
You wouldn't. And it's covered by insurance, right? So, if you feel that you have an issue where you're just not feeling rested, I mean, at that point, I would be like, hey, let me get a test.
You didn't go to college. Radiology, you became a radiologist, or you?
No, I hired radiologists. And
so you have no formal education?
No.
You have plenty of education, but no formal college education. How'd you get into the science of all this?
I read a lot. It's funny because, I watch interviews about Elon Musk, right? And people are always fascinated by, like, well, hold on, he didn't go to school for rockets. Right. Well, I didn't go to school for medicine, right? I didn't go to school for sleep or radiology. But the information's out there. There's
100%.
so much information. I've had to do a tremendous amount of reading and understanding about all different sorts of machines that, like in radiology, that PET scans. I don't know if you know what a PET scan is. All right, so positron emissions tomography, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know how that works?
No.
All right, so is kind of fascinating. But how it works essentially is you go in for this PET study, and we want to find where cancer is in your body. And this is a great way for people to understand about their diet and how bad sugar is. So I'm going to inject you. They inject you with a sugar-based dye. Okay. Now the sugar, so I'm injecting you with a sugar-based dye, and then I put you in the PET scan.
Mm-hmm.
And the PET scan shows where the sugar-based dye ended up. And it shows like a flare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the sugar-based dye goes directly to where the cancer cells are.
Why?
Because cancer eats sugar.
Cancer eats sugar?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what Pat said.
Cancer is sugar-based, meaning that's all it wants to eat.
The more stuff you correct.
Yeah, it wants to eat sugar.
Wow.
So we put sugar in you, it goes to where the cancer cell is or the tumor is, and it lights up. Why is it lighting up? Because the sugar went exactly there. So the person leaves there and goes to McDonald's and gets a chocolate smoothie and is wondering why I'm getting sick, right?
Correct.
But that's the science. I'm simplifying it, but that's positron emissions tomography, the PET scans. That was why that was such a big deal, because now you had a tumor, you didn't have to cut it up and do a biopsy. You could do a PET study, which is great, technology, and it's advanced even more, since then. But yeah, so this was back in 2005.
Wow.
Okay, so that's when I was like, oh. People are talking about sugar now, and I'm like, dude, back in 2005, when I had a PET scan, we actually provided the service. I was like, hold on, this is weird. What if I just don't eat sugar or limit my sugar intake, right? Wouldn't that make sense? I would just starve the cancer. So, but again,
there's something behind that if you would limit that.
There is something behind it.
Yeah.
You got to limit your sugar.
In general, but you're saying it feeds the cancer.
Yeah, that's
you
how
can starve out cancer.
That's why fasting is such a huge thing now. If you look at fasting, and I intermittent fast, I don't know if you intermittent fast.
I do.
Yeah, but the reason you intermittent fast is because if fasting, essentially what you're doing is you're starving the cancer cells. So you have cancer cells in your body every single day, okay? Because cancer cells are mutated cells. They're cells that were programmed. So you have cells in your body, right? Okay, so every single year you get a whole new sheath of skin. Right, you get a whole new bone, you get a whole new liver, right? Because all those cells are regenerating. That cell's dying, gets duplicated by another cell. Well, in the event you have a cell that's programmed to duplicate twice, that your body, your white cells go in and say, hey, okay, you got to go.
You got to go.
Because you were only supposed to duplicate once, but you duplicated twice, which is how you get the growth. Mm-hmm. So it's a cell that's saying, hey, I'm going to regenerate over and over again. It's a misprogrammed cell.
Got it.
Right? So your white cells, your immune system's got to be in good shape to be able to get rid of that every day. It's happening every day.
Damn. So if you can keep yourself in good health from an immunity standpoint, your white cells, your white cells can
do the job.
You can let them do the work
now,
for you.
If you're under a lot of stress and you have a horrible diet, how well is your immune system going to do? It's not going to do that great. So you have to be in a position where your immune system is thriving and winning, so that it can get rid of these cancerous cells that's all cancer is. It's a mutated cell that continues to grow because it has the wrong programming. Wow. Right? And your body is designed to get rid of that. So if you don't take care of your immune system and you're feeding your body all this sugar all day long, you're suppressing your immune system. I think the number was for every teaspoon of sugar, your immune system gets suppressed for 7 hours.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Something around that range.
I don't need a lot of sugar, thank God.
But it's so when I started hearing about that, I cut out sugar really in general. I mean, I still have my ice cream and my desserts and stuff, but I don't have sugar with my coffees, and I don't eat a lot of sugar during the day, and I don't eat candy and stuff like that during the day. I'll have my times when I do it, but I do it when I eat, so that my insulin is spiked at one time and it's good to go.
Correct.
But yeah, sugar is a bad thing.
Damn.
Sugar's a bad thing.
All right, so you've been ridiculously successful, and you brought up some of the conference you got, and I wanted to ask you this question because somebody asked me who the most interesting person I've ever interviewed was. Mm-hmm. And I said, if you ask from an interesting, like enigmatic, deep, there's a lot of pain in there, in real, for me, it was David Goggins.
Yeah.
I've not met anybody like David Goggins.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, same.
I've met a lot of people going through a lot of things, but you've been around a lot of people, you've interviewed a lot of people, these huge events. Who was probably the most surprising if you're like, beforehand I met this person and damn, I didn't realize these 2, 3, 4, who was the most surprising for you after you had a chance to meet him? Like what you thought about him or her beforehand, was it good or bad? Was it a hell of a lot different than after?
I don't know. I think Magic was a lot more sophisticated than I had seen.
Yeah.
Right. To me, he was the quintessential professional. Like I remember when I saw a video after the conference. Magic was, instead of being in his green room, when I went on for my initial keynote, he went out of the green room and was sitting there watching me on the back screen the entire time. And when I got off the stage, he got on the stage. And then he started taking bits from my speech and using it in his speech. He didn't have to do that.
No.
I was like, wow, that guy's a professional. He really, really gets it. So I really enjoy, and I like to study those types of things with people. And then, I think I would agree David Goggins was also a very, very deep individual, has a crazy story. And I really enjoyed him, and we really connected on the stories. And he has his Rocky moment, I had my Rocky moment. And so that was a great, but they were all great in their own way. Jay Cutler was, he has an amazing story. I really like Jay's story. They were all great. I mean, Alex's story was great. I mean, even Rick Ross. Rick Ross has a crazy story.
Yeah, dude. I know. It's nuts.
He's got a crazy story. But I think everybody in their own right had their own thing. Grant had his story, and it was a great story. Tucker was great. Tucker actually. Yeah. Tucker really surprised me.
Yeah.
Because, you see him one way on TV, and you get in front of him, and he's just a regular
dude,
family man. He's just his values are there and all that, and agree or disagree with his politics. He's just he's a very humble, nice guy. And I think somebody that has so much influence as much as he has, you kind of think that they kind of gotten to him a bit.
Yeah, lost his mind, but
it hasn't.
Well, what's funny, and you talk about the stories, and I want to kind of hit on this because I think most of the people that we talk to and that follow, subscribe, they're trying to find their own way. They either have a story and they've not, because for me, people are like, what's the greatest thing ever happened to you? That I had to do all on my own. Like, I don't have a better. And then you have kids, and when you start, like, the cross to bear for you with the two young ones is going to be, they ain't going to have the struggles you had.
No.
Ever.
No.
And that's great, but I told a buddy of mine the other day, he's 31. He said, what do you think is going to be the hardest thing for me now that I said, well, you were worth 21 cents 5 years ago. You now have 2 children. Yeah. You're worth 35, 40 million.
Yeah.
You're not broke. We do a lot of business together. And your 2 children are never going to struggle the way you did. Never. It's impossible unless you go off the deep end and start smoking crack every day and get jacked up.
Yeah.
You hear these people with their stories, in your opinion, because you have yours. You've been around a lot of successful people that have their story as well.
Yeah.
What did you see them do? I get it. They move through it. They pull all of that. But there's a lot of folks that I'll see. I was in a meeting the other day, and this one guy's cussing this kid out. And I pulled him aside afterwards. I was like, bro, do you think he's in that place right now? Do you see how broken he is? Like, do you see he's hanging on by a string? Right now, he's trying to make $1. He's trying to make a sale. Don't bully somebody that is in that position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to go talk shit to David Goggins? I'll respect you. I think he'll smack the shit out of you at any age he's in. I got my money on Goggins. Yeah. But at the end of the day, what have you seen specifically that these people, yourself included, because you had that fever for that many days, damn doctor told you you might have a like, oh my God.
I got the HIV. He thought I had the HIV, man.
Like, you know what I mean? It took you a couple of days to figure out if you did or you didn't.
Like, oh,
but
shit.
stress, think about it. Could it have gotten any lower from an emotional standpoint than it was? No, because your body reacted so poorly. Yeah. What do you see that yourself and these other people have said, you know what, screw it, man. What did y'all do that the people listening need to understand? If they can do some of these things, they can come out the other end, whatever that looks like for them.
But what do you mean specifically that they have to do?
Like their world's crumbling.
Yeah.
Their world's their world's crumbling right now. They're not where they want to be financially. They're going through a bad situation. They're going through a divorce. This happened with their kid. They had a great job and now they don't. They started their company. They ran into the ground. Now they filed bankruptcy. They're in a terrible position in their life. To them, it's rock bottom. And right now they're grasping to get out. What advice you give them? Specific advice.
Look, I mean, I think it's maybe a simple answer.
I don't care, dude.
Right? It may be a really simple. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be as technical as all that science shit you said that confused the out of me. This can be a good simple one.
The simplicity of it is you got to get up every day and you got to put one foot in front of the other, and you got to go to work. And that's really your duty. Like, you know, I've been through so many difficult times, so many different challenges, close to bankruptcy so many times. And, you know, I think people get lost in today's social media world of thinking that it's the cold plunge and it's the this and it's the video that you need to watch and all that stuff. And if anything you get from this, and the messaging is really like, that's all. Okay.
Yep.
You have to really put your big boy pants on, and it's duty. It's like being a soldier. If I was an entrepreneur, I'd be a Navy SEAL. And the reason I'd be a Navy SEAL is because I fall into line with duty. To me, it's duty, right? I have a duty to myself, to my goals, to my wife, to my kids, to my company, to all the employees everywhere, and all the things that I do to get up and do it. And I may not feel like I want to do it. There's many days that I've been where I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to have to face the things I had to face that day. But I said, hey, I got to do it. This is what I signed up for, you know. And I think people forget that because they go into these adventures, these journeys. Well, you signed up for that, right?
Correct.
You signed up for that,
100%.
right? If you want to be a boxer. Don't get mad later because you got knocked out. I mean, you signed up for it,
Correct.
right? If I'm a soldier and I go to war and I get shot in the arm, I signed up for it, right? I could have took a job at Target, but I didn't.
Right.
So I think people lose the sight of what you signed up for. So I have to remind myself sometimes when I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. Hey, Vic, you signed up for this. There's no complaining. There's no why me. There's no victim mentality. It's like, dude, I signed up for it. And you got to get out of bed, and you got to put one foot in front of the other, and you got to go to work.
Correct.